Hello everyone and welcome back to Superboy Beyond. And last week we watched Roads Not Taken Part 2, and this week we're going to be watching the follow-up Roads episode, Road to Hell Part 1. So yeah, I don't think this episode needs much of an introduction, to be honest, so should we just get into it?
Absolutely.
Great. If this is your first time watching one of our commentaries, it's not like a typical YouTube reaction video. You're not going to see any actual clips or hear any audio from it. There'll be a very heavily filtered version up there in the middle, but that's purely so you can keep in time with us. If you need to pause for whatever reason, just lets you know you're back in sync with us. If you can see what we're watching and your own copy of the show is at the same place, we'll all be fine. So yeah, get your disc ready. This is the final disc of season 3 on the DVD, although if you have a digital copy, it's just part 1 of the finale. Season 3, episode 25, in 3, 2, 1, play.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, Roads Not Taken is probably the stronger of the two stories. If we count Roads Not Taken part 1 and 2 as one long story.
Yep.
But I think Road to Hell is a very good follow-up. It's a great season finale. It's maybe the best season finale that Superboy had.
Yeah, and of course, the whole idea of the title, "Road to Hell," it's based upon that famous quote of "The road to hell is paved with good intentions."
Yeah,
and we'll see what the good intentions are as the episode begins.
Indeed.
This episode is heavily influenced by a classic Superboy story from the 70s that featured Clark Kent as Superboy, as essentially a Tarzan type character called Karkan.
I love the fact that it shows us the cape as if,
actually,
as if we wouldn't know that it's Clark.
Yeah. Stan Berkowitz that wasn't even involved in this.
Huh.
It was Michael Maurer and someone else.
Well, they did a very good job. And the ship, the crashed ship, you can tell they didn't have much of a budget for it, but I think they did the best they could with the budget they had, and I think it looks fine. I think it's a pretty decent representation.
And for those eagle-eyed fans, you'll notice something about the assistant of Dr. Winger here.
Yeah. Do we ever get her name? Because it's just my headcanon now is that it is just a variant of X-Men.
We don't get a name for her, but that's my headcanon on it too.
It's funny how I don't know, Winger's hair and goatee, it just reminds me for some reason of some of the future scenes in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for some reason. Yeah. I think they've got him. It's a very Bill and Ted style futuristic thing. Just with hardly any budget, so that,
Oh, that poor Corvette.
I always wonder when you see nice cars that have been smashed to pieces in shows that don't have much of a budget. I wonder if that car was just like in a car accident and like it was a write-off, they couldn't fix it. So it's just like the studio just buys them up. If we need a crashed Corvette in something, we'll just roll it out. That's what
Probably,
I'd do
yeah.
anyway, because I can't imagine Superboy having the money to destroy a car like that.
So the wonky part about this episode that I've found starts with the whole his rescuing of that actress.
Yeah.
And we'll get to where it becomes wonky in a few moments.
I mean, I'm guessing you're going to talk about the fact that Clark acts now like he doesn't know that he's gone to a different universe, even though he's been through that portal before, so he would know exactly what's happening.
There is that, but it's
because, like, why would he assume that Jackson in this universe would know what he's talking about? He's been through it before. He would remember. It wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, there is that. I mean, he should recognize when he's been pulled from one universe to another.
And it's, I mean, with everything Jackson's saying, like Clark would work out what's happening a little bit easier. The fact that nobody knows who he is as well, like,
yeah, they're all acting like he's an insane man.
I mean, he's acting like an insane man from their perspective, Either that or they just think it's a prank of some kind. I mean, Jackson assumed it was a prank.
Mm.
It's interesting that in an Earth without Superboy, Lana is actually not only still working at the same place, but she's actually in a higher position than she was in our Earth.
Yeah.
She must just be like getting up to like Lois Lane style shenanigans just like every other week or something.
Probably.
So yeah, I mean, in this episode, his name is Eddie.
Yeah,
he's known as Ernie in other ones.
Yeah, presumably this is the same day that this occurred, and yet the newspaper already says that the actress is dead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if she died, it would have been within 5 minutes, and now they've got a newspaper out saying she's dead?
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe this part of the multiverse is operating like a day behind or a day ahead of the others, Maybe the Earth he left was on a Tuesday and now he's on a Wednesday and he doesn't realize yet.
Yeah.
I'm just clutching at straws, to be honest, but there you go. It's funny, though, that they've got Lana as a field agent in this, and yet she's like dolled up like she's going out to dinner at like an expensive restaurant or something, She's not dressed like a field agent for like a federal aid, like,
Yeah.
You expect her to be dressed more like Mulder or Scully, like, the suits and stuff,
Yeah, she's putting across, kind of, and I hate to use the words, but bitch attitude.
Well, I was thinking more sort of rich, upper class attitude.
Mm.
But that's mostly down to the wardrobe, I think.
Yeah. And now this Dr. Winger, completely different hairstyle. No goatee.
Wouldn't surprise me if it's the same wig, though. And they've just like styled it slightly differently.
Mm.
Yeah, of all the Earths for him to arrive in, this could have been one of the worst ones that he could find himself. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that he will be saved by the other Winger and Superman, like, if he just found himself stuck here, he would just be stuck here.
Yeah, there's no way for him to go home.
And it's interesting as well, though, that it's, Winger's research and stuff, they establish basically that it's a direct result of Superboy's influence on the world. Like, he wouldn't have gotten the funding if it wasn't for the things Superboy had done, which is a
Yep.
really interesting way to show how it's not just about the lives that Superboy saves. Like, he has a net positive for everyone around him at all times. Yeah. And it's great.
I mean, even Lana is a better person, in any other Earth than this. I mean, here she's kind of stuck up.
Yeah, a little bit snobbish. Or maybe she's just a little bit more, what's the word? Cynical.
Well, in a world without, a guy flying around in a red suit, a red cape and a blue suit, there is no hope.
Yeah.
And that what you were talking about the last week when we did Road to Hell Part 2, Road's Not Taken Part 2, that was a Superboy with no hope. This is a world with no hope.
Yeah. And yet they're more or less doing okay. Like, they're pretty much fine. Like, you would expect things to be a lot worse.
Excuse me. Yep.
I do like this scene where he watches the big cats. I don't know if they're panthers or what.
And this version of Lex and Darla is very interesting. She's the alpha and he's the henchman.
Indeed. I can hear Remy barking now. He must have heard me talking about cats.
Yeah, I think he heard me sneeze. He's in the next room with my dad. So, but it's very interesting. Lex still has Warren Eckworth's face.
Maybe Darla made him take that face for a plan.
Yeah, my headcanon on this is, maybe Lex had the same upbringing on this Earth that he did on Earth 1, which we don't get to see until next season. But maybe he wasn't as brazen as he could have been. Who knows? Maybe Leo didn't exist on this Earth.
Maybe.
And
maybe this is just what would have happened to Lex if he'd met Darla first.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that she saw, ooh, he's good for a henchman. And she pushed him to get the surgery, kill off Warren Eckworth, and then because there's no Superboy out there, they were able to escape easier.
Although, what would they have needed from Warren Eckworth, since the gun was made and named after Superboy?
Money.
Yeah, I guess he was just still making a weapon. Maybe it just had a different name.
And it's interesting that Sherman Howard plays this version of Lex as very nerdish. He has a stutter. So who knows? Maybe all the abuse that he received from his father caused the stutter. Who knows?
Yeah. And it's also funny that
the alpha here.
Yeah, and it's also showing how, even though she's the alpha, Lex is still very much the genius among the two. Like, he recognizes the potential value in those crystals where she doesn't. Almost makes you wonder exactly how she convinced him to be her henchman.
Yeah.
I do wonder what happened to all those crystals in the Prime universe.
Mm.
Like, did Pa Kent put the ship on the back of the truck in this continuity? I forget in Rites of Passage whether we see that.
We don't see it, but we see the after effects of it.
Mm.
He had just loaded the ship onto
Right,
the
and there's
truck.
like a blanket or something, sheet over it, isn't there?
Yeah.
Something like that. Everything except that purple crystal, but that's something we'll discuss in a later episode. Yeah, good luck with that. It's funny because he doesn't even really have to break the bars. He could just lift the thing off of him, considering the bottom is just completely open.
Well, remember, he hasn't been raised, by a family with a school,
True.
so he doesn't know that. And this is interesting that Lex is using psychology on this kid.
Yeah, it's very messed up, really, how they use the young Kal-El. It's funny how this works, despite the fact that Superboy definitely wouldn't know sign language. I don't even know for sure if what he's doing is real sign language, but I assume part of it must be. Just because why wouldn't they? Hmm.
Presumably, just like the Christopher Reeve Superman, the Kryptonian ship did, some teaching on their voyage
Yeah,
here. So
yeah, you would
that's
assume
why,
you do a little bit.
yeah. So I'm assuming that's why he's able to understand what Lex is saying,
Yeah, maybe.
because if there had been no teaching crystals in the ship, he would be mute and he wouldn't understand. I mean, if anyone has ever seen the movie Nell, you would know that.
Hmm. It is funny how physically, like, this version of Lana seems to be morphing into the regular one. Like
Yeah.
she's looking less and less posh as the episode goes on.
Still has the attitude though.
Yeah, but that's okay. I don't mind that so much.
And for some odd reason, I think this is the best looking version of Darla, even though they're all played by Tracy Roberts.
Hmm. And yeah, the royal blue suit just looks so much better than the lighter one.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he did start using the royal blue a little bit early, because you can tell the difference so clearly. I mean, you just have to compare it to episodes like Superboy Lost. You know, they're in the same setting. It's probably the same exact patch of woods, even,
Yeah.
and you can just tell the shade of blue is completely different. It's funny though. I really don't think there's been a better Superman costume than this to this day. They've gotten more complicated, but that's not necessarily better.
I think the crystal knife would have worked better if it was more of a rounded crystal.
Or just one that looked slightly sharper, less thick.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, it's Kryptonian crystal. I guess it's very, very sharp. Although only for Kryptonians, apparently. It's leather wrapped around the handle. Seems to be able to stop it from cutting into Lex's hand. I guess it's got slight, like, kryptonite properties about it.
Mm. So now we kind of find out what's going on here.
Mm.
And it also kind of leads you to believe that every time he's moved between Earths in the past, this version of Winger has been kind of manipulating things and pushing him where he needs to go.
Mm. It's an interesting idea. Part of me wishes there was a TV series that basically just focused on an Earth that monitors what happens in parallel Earths and goes and tries to help where they can. You know, like Sliders, but with an actual, you know, base of operations and all of that.
Yep.
So that was the end of Road to Hell Part 1. A very solid first part. I think it sets up everything it needs to for Part 2.
Yep.
It's annoying that Dr. Winger's assistant is just credited as Dr. Winger's assistant. They don't give her a name, but I guess Vexman hadn't been created yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, in both our head canons, you know, they're the same person. It's just a multiverse variant of them. So yeah, I think we'll wait to give this a score when we do Part 2. I don't have anything else to say about Part 1.
No, neither do I.
Okay. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to tune in again next week where we'll be doing Road to Hell Part 2. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Viacom.